All right, welcome everyone. I know we're going to have people joining us as we get started today, but to respect everyone's time, I'm going to go ahead and welcome us and kick us off for today's session. So my name is Sarah McAllister. I am Senior Associate Director for Alumni Career and Professional Development, and I will be your host for today's session. We are going to dive into professional confidence and why it's critical for career growth. I imagine there are many different reasons why each of us are joining today. And what I would love to hear from you is who you are, where you're joining from, and that way we can just kind of get the chat started. There are going to be a couple prompts throughout our conversation today where it is going to make the conversation more inclusive and interesting if you participate in the chat. And if you don't, that's okay too. The other point of today's session is this is meant to be more of a general overview around professional confidence. And my goal is that you will leave with some strategies that you will then be able to dive a little bit deeper into what professional confidence means for you and how you want to move forward with growing that for yourself. So with that, one more thing, this is being recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, which I will send out that link after our session today if you don't already have access to it. So I encourage you to subscribe to the channel. We upload sessions every week, and there's also an archive of about 40 sessions from previous professional development weeks. Okay, so glad you all are here. As you can see, this is what we're going to do today. So we're going to explore some different definitions of professional confidence. We're going to talk about some common roadblocks, some strategies that I have used as a career coach with alums over the past 6 years that I think work really well. I would love to hear some strategies from you all as well. And then what's next for you? What do you want to take away? We can share some goals as well. Okay, so let's dive in. So first, I would love if you are, if you're able to do so, to put in the chat, what does professional confidence mean to you? When you think about this term, what comes up for you? I'm also going to share some definitions in the next slide of what I found on the internet, as well as what some of my colleagues shared with me. So as you're thinking about what professional confidence means to you, I'm going to share a few reasons why I wanted to have this session today. So over the past 6 years, I have worked with hundreds of alums around their career and professional job search experience. And I would say the overall theme that comes up every single time has something to do with professional confidence. Whether it is they don't yet know how good of an employee they are, or they have had, unfortunately, toxic work environments that have really hit. They've had some bad experiences in working, and someone has told them that maybe they're not as good at their job as they think that they are. This is great. Okay, professional confidence. Giving advice to a client that is based entirely on expertise, not necessarily what the client wants to hear, but needs to hear. Oh, I love that. Belief in your ability to get tasks that you are assigned to done well. Feeling competent in my skill set and believing that I can be successful in progressive roles and assignments. Having confidence in yourself to go after your career goals. These are all great. I love this. Knowing the boundaries of my responsibility, working within that and knowing where to push, being seen as a trusted advisor, and feeling like I make positive and meaningful contributions to my department, job security. Thank you all for sharing. I was hoping that this would kind of seal my point, which you all did beautifully, which is professional confidence can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And so one, getting really clear about what that means to you. And you might be joining today because you're not exactly sure what that means. So you have some great definitions in the chat. And here are a few more that I actually polled some of my colleagues and friends throughout the week. So it comes from internal and external acknowledgement that I have generally a good grasp of the stuff I deal with at work. Right. The middle definition I pulled from an article. This was a bit more of like a kind of a Webster-esque definition. And then feeling at ease and authentic, like I can be myself and successful in my role. So feel free to add more definitions in the chat as we go on. Owning my extensive experience and knowledge. Yes. Okay, so we have a general idea of what it looks like, what it means, right? Professional confidence. So here are some things to consider as we move through our time together. What is your current work environment like? Do you feel like you have a good a good relationship with your supervisor? Are you yourself a supervisor? Who are the people that you work with in your office, right? Daily tasks and responsibilities, professional values and goals, as well as are you currently set up to succeed in your role? So here's an example of an alum that I just recently worked with. She is a fairly new alum, a new grad, and she's working in an industry that she's always wanted to work in. She was never set up for success for her current role. She was hired for one role, and because of pandemic, because of it being a small organization, she was quickly pulled in lots of different directions, and she's never really had an opportunity to dive into what she studied and what she wanted to do. And so she is currently really struggling with, she came to me because she thought that she needed to do a full career pivot. She was like, obviously I'm not meant to do this work that I studied. I just need to do something completely different. Can you help me? And through our work together, what we realized through some of these prompts that I put on the screen is exactly what I said, right? And so when you are struggling with, and maybe you're not struggling, right? Maybe you're just like, I could be a little bit better. I could feel a little bit more confident. But if you, the reason why I shared that particular scenario is something else to think about in terms of professional confidence is if you are considering a full career pivot, I encourage you to think about why. Is it because you really want to try something different, which is great? Or is it because you might not be set up for success in your current role? You're actually really good at what you want to do, but there are some things that you can do to pivot. And this is a whole nother session, but right, it might be time to find another job. So that's not what I'm doing today. I'm not telling you to quit your job by any means, but I am wanting to open up a space to really explore how do you evaluate what you're currently doing, and then let's dive into some strategies. Okay, so think about this. You can use the chat or you can just use this as a thought exercise. This is a bit of like that magic wand question. What do you need to feel confident in your current role? Is it more experience? Is it a different supervision experience? Is it training? Magic wand, perfect world. Think about that for about 30 seconds. And then we're going to go into some strategies. Does anybody want to share what they need to feel confident in their current role, or what has helped you feel confident in previous roles? I'd love to hear some thoughts. All right. supervision, training, time, feedback. Yes. Communication, supervisor, and those I supervise. These are great. All right, so a lot of feedback, right? Feedback, open communication. Are you doing a good job? If you're not, what do you need to improve? Confidence in my line of work comes from delivering a high level of expertise. So to feel confident, I have to be at the top of my game, which means pushing the upper limits of expertise. Yes, you need to know more than clients. That's so helpful, John. Thank you. All right, I love this. Keep this coming as we move into the strategies. I'd really love to hear your thoughts. Okay, so I'm going to spend a little bit of time on this slide because these are some of the strategies that I have found to be really helpful as I work with alums and dig into kind of what I said, right? So what are some of the key issues and how can we pinpoint what's going on with the confidence piece? So energy mapping. Energy mapping can be called a couple different things, but I'm going to explain it to you what it means, and I think it's helpful. It's a good thought exercise. So what energy mapping looks like when I work with alums is I encourage you to think about one day. So think about what you did yesterday. It might not be an average day, but just hone in on one day of your job. Go through all of the things that you did throughout that day and just make that list. Sending emails, phone calls, administrative tasks. Maybe you were, all of the things. How did you spend your time that day? And then go back to that list and think about, did that task give you energy or take away energy? So that's just, right? Just kind of look at that. How many things you're doing throughout the day that are exhausting and how many things you're doing throughout the day that give you energy. Next, think about, so that's just more of like a data point for you, right? Then the next step is, what do you have control over, right? So when you think about the pieces that, are you maybe front loading or back loading energy depreciating tasks? Can you move those around so you have a bit more of a balance? The things that are taking your energy away, can you give those to someone else? Right? So the other thing to think about with professional confidence is their professional confidence and burnout, right? They are very symbiotic, I would say. And so part of the energy mapping experience is really just getting a better sense of how you work best. And again, what you have control over. And this is something that you can then use to have that conversation with your supervisor and maybe with the people that you supervise to start to move around those tasks. If you're working by yourself, how can you readjust those tasks to really give yourself that leg up to that you're working at your best, right? So energy mapping is one way, it's more of like looking at the landscape. The other thing to think about with the energy mapping is your current role filled with a lot of tasks that you might be really good at, but you don't like doing? So that's another element of professional confidence, that you might be in the kind of the burnout zone of the tasks. And I would encourage you to think about how can you tweak how you're spending your time? Any questions on the energy mapping or anything else that you think would be helpful that you've done in the past? Feel free to drop in the chat. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next one. So reviewing your past roles. I have to be pretty honest with you guys. So I like to call this career mapping, but I didn't want to use mapping twice. So I just put review your past roles, but it's another exercise that I call career mapping. And how I do that is it's a better exercise if you do it with someone else, because there is a kind of magic in verbally processing your professional experience that doesn't always happen when you're just doing it by yourself. So if you can reach out to me, reach out to a colleague or a friend and talk through your professional journey. And while you're doing that, or you can write it out if you do better as a kind of working by yourself. But as you do that, a couple things to keep in mind. Think about each role that you've had. So it's kind of like it's a 30,000 foot version of energy mapping. So think about each role that you've had. What did you like about it? What did you not like about it? And how did that role influence your next move? Because what happens a lot with professional confidence, especially when we're lacking professional confidence and we're really struggling with it, is a couple things. Sometimes it happens because we have a more reactive job experience. So we have one job, we're good at it. Somebody tells us that there's another job opening. We just take it because that's what we think we should do. And a couple jobs down the line, we find ourselves in a role that maybe you are doing the job, but you're not happy about it. And again, maybe you're not set up for success. So the career mapping piece really gives you that sense of how did you get to where you are? Maybe what were some of the things that you wish you would have done differently, and how can that improve the decisions that you're making now? And because of the common thread in the chat around supervision and open communication, what are some things so thinking about previous managers or previous supervisors that you really liked? What did they do well? And can that inform you in having a conversation with your current supervisor, right? Like, what do you need from them to be more successful? I want to say all this with the caveat of, right, like all the strategies that I'm saying are so much easier for me to say than to actually do. So please reach out if you want to talk through how to have a conversation with your supervisor about feedback, right? And there's some really great resources online as well. But this is just kind of the like 35,000 foot version of this strategy. But again, the career mapping, I think, is a really great tool of awareness and looking at when in the past have you also felt confident in the role, and what was it about that environment that you felt confident around, and what can you bring into your current space? So with that, right, so you've done the energy mapping, that's kind of like present. You've done a little bit of looking in the past about the career mapping. Hopefully by this point, you do have some clear sense of what are some things that you can do to change. So what are some immediate changes that you can try today or tomorrow or this week to start building some professional confidence? And I'm going to give you some examples. So one example can be starting to speak up more in meetings. Schedule a meeting with your supervisor to talk about, hey, I'd like to take on some more responsibility, or I recognize that I'm spending a lot of my time, and I always talk about spreadsheets because that's something everyone can relate to. I'm spending a lot of my time working on spreadsheets. I realize that I don't actually like working on spreadsheets. Can we have a conversation for somebody else to take this on? I'm curious for you all, are there some other strategies that you have used in the past to make some small changes in your role to feel better about what you're doing? So as you're thinking about that, the next step is setting long-term goals, right? So we've talked about a couple of things so far. We've talked about, are you set up for success, right? This kind of like a lot of this professional confidence, these strategies is a lot of kind of inward processing. And so are you currently in a role that you like? Are you currently working in an industry that you really like, but you just want to feel more confident, right? So that can be a goal. Let's say a 3 to 6 month goal to take on 2 more tasks, to have regular conversations with my supervisor about feedback, and maybe to meet with a colleague around how you can get more comfortable talking about your role. Because so much of what we talked about in terms of the definitions around confidence also is how we show up every day. And so how do you want to feel? I would say there's 2 main things about professional confidence is how do you want to feel and how do you want to show up in your role? And there's a lot of places that you can have control. And then there's some places that you might not have control over. And that's where you can really think about, is it time to start thinking about another role? Are you ready for a promotion and you haven't yet said anything? Do you want more money? Will that help you have some more professional confidence, right? So what are the things that you want to build that professional confidence? Training. I love that. Yes, great point. So things that Mitch has done in the past is training, get feedback from supervisors, employee stakeholders. Thank you for bringing up practice. That is a great point. So I would say, practice talking about the role that you do, right? So if that's sometimes that is a little, that can be almost a place of conflict or challenge within, as you're not really sure how to talk about the work that you do. And so you can't really feel confident about what you do if you can't tell other people how to, explain what you do to them. So one of the things that I ask the alums that I work with on a regular basis is, from the conversations that you have with, if you're somebody that goes to a coffee shop on a regular basis and you have a really great relationship with the barista, right? How can you start to weave in conversations about the work that you do? Your friends, if you go to a networking, a happy hour, just practice. Think about some low stakes experiences in your life where you can just kind of start to get a little bit more practice on, again, how do you want to talk about the work that you do? Thinking about the other piece back to the energy mapping is where do you have control over tasks that take your energy away, but maybe you want to be better at, right? So that's the other kind of training piece that Mitch brought up. Feedback from others is a motivating factor, adds to confidence, but can hurt confidence too if the feedback is critical and it helps to not take it personally. Thank you, John. That was a great point. So I would say that is a whole nother session that we can absolutely have around feedback, how to take it, how to give it, and how to use it honestly, it's kind of that take what you want and leave the rest, right? So that's really helpful. Okay. So this session, we're right at 25 minutes. I really wanted to kind of keep it in the 30-minute range. I wanted to give you all some strategies, explore some definitions, and really have you take this information and then spend some time really digging into it. So I hope that is what you are getting out of this time together, and open it up for any other questions. I'm also going to put my email in the chat for you to reach out. This is being recorded. I will follow up with an email to everyone. And I also encourage you to sign up for future sessions. Special shout out to John Hyde, who was on our call, who will be a presenter in a few, maybe next week. I have to look soon. All right, everyone. Thank you for coming. I hope to see you in future sessions, and good luck with building all of the professional confidence. Have a good day.